Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today I'm by myself because we're going to focus on the story. We've talked briefly about what the idea is, and what we know, what we want to express is that it's Hades being an office guy 24/7, where he has to decide if the souls, the people who died, but now they're just souls in the afterlife, if they should go to the good afterlife, to the bad afterlife, or to the mediocre afterlife. And by that, he has to draft a contract. He got a little bit burnt out from his job, but he's still there working hard to provide a fair afterlife to everyone. He doesn't do this by himself. He has two souls that help him throughout the process, admin and finance, who were once human and now they are helping him into dealing with all of this paperwork. But this day, there's this soul. She looks a little bit special, and when it's her turn, Hades decides that she should go to the mediocre afterlife, that everything that she did on her life leads to an okay afterlife. Not necessarily the best one, but also not torture. However, this soul speaks up and she is a little bit sassy by saying, well, I don't think that's true. I think you should work again on my case. And he does, but he just decides that no, that's where she should go, which is the mediocre afterlife, which is not mediocre in a bad sense, it's just like the normal one. The conversation goes on and they kind of build attention into it because she is demanding, she's saying how good she was, and Hades is, I don't have time for this, so please just move on. But she continues, she really says nasty things and things that Hades will not tolerate, because if there is one thing that he is fair. He really takes the time to analyze everyone's life and afterwards decide where they should go. She cannot tell him that he's not fair. Tension keeps building up and they get a little bit heated, and at some point she argues that Zeus would be a better option to deal with the underworld, that he would know better. Hades will not take this. That is just nonsense for him. Zeus is not as great as everyone thinks he is. He is not going to tolerate someone talking to him like that, because in the end he is a god and she is not. And she is just a soul that died. So if he says that she's going to the underworld that he chooses, that's where she will end up. However, the conversation is super messy, and while Hades is kind of implying all of these things, he also slips out that, well, if you're so smart and you don't want to go into the afterlife I'm sending you, maybe you should just try to find your way back to the actual living space. So come on, go out of my way. As always, that's her take on it, and it's probably going to look a little bit more like this. He says this in like a very bitter way. But the moment that finance and admin, who have been souls that have been working for him for centuries, suddenly hear that there is a way out of the underworld, which is the #1 rule, that means that Hades has been lying to them. He has kept all of these souls working for him under a lie. So they get some investigation done and they lose their trust in Hades, which makes that Hades realizes he cannot do the job on his own, and he really needs to go back and understand why he does his job in the first place. I don't want to say more because I want to leave some stuff for the actual short film, but now I would like to get into the inspiration because it's very straightforward. This short film was inspired by Supergiant's Hades, released in 2018. I got so obsessed with the video game when it came out because I thought the representation of Hades was kind of fresh. It was new, so we don't have a lot of representation from him because in Greek mythology he was always never mentioned too much because people, for example, thought that it would bring death if you would mention him. Overall, we don't know much about him, and every representation we have so far, he's either the bad guy or someone that creates a problem. So I wanted something fresh, and taking the idea from the video game where he is a father figure, well, that was new. And in the game, he has to compensate the fact that he's the ruler of the underworld and he has to deal with souls and send them to their afterlife. But also, he cares for Zacharias. He is a father to a son that creates some challenge. And yes, he is the antagonist of the game, but at the same time, he does it because he loves his son.
It's just nectar, Father. Lighten up. I get that you're surly about everything, but please at least try toward decency with me. If not for me, then for Mother.
How dare you lecture me? I mean... Look, as you told me yourself, there's no changing what already transpired. When you have lived as long as I have, you you've come to understand your weaknesses.
What are you getting at? You're just going to give up, stick with what's comfortable for you instead of making any real effort at making peace with your son.
Listen to me. My attempts at making peace are going to be rather subtle for your tastes. I cannot change the past, and there is only so much I can do about the future. I tell you this because I shall not lie to you again. That much I swear.
And I thought this concept of a conflicted Hades, which is a god but has the same type of problems a human would have, and specifically family and also job, I thought that was great. So the first image I had in my head was this bulky god behind the desk, which is a funny image, and I turned that later into a story of 20 minutes, and I was just so hyped with this idea that I knew the character, I just needed the story. And finding this internal and external story, because here we have the external story is, well, he wants to draft a contract for every soul, including this one that is being sassy, but the internal is like, okay, I need to deal with my job and I need to do it properly. And by behaving the way I did, people are not trusting me anymore as much as they used to. And I need these people in order to do the job that I have to do. So I think the internal and external are kind of like complementing each other very well, and finding these two stories was really fun. Then I had too much going on in the story for a short film and I had to bring it a little bit down. I'm still like working exactly on how to make this work. I think that it's almost there. There are a lot of things to take into consideration in this short film and in the character that Hades is. I think it's a good setup to take this very human problem of like work and co-workers and stress and having no passion for what you do, but if you put it into a god perspective, it gets amplified, and I think it works very well to represent this idea. But foremost, if there's one thing that I want people to take away from the short film, is that Hades is not as bad as we think he is. For me, he's just a character that has a job and that he takes it very seriously. So I don't know, I feel like it's a cool character, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. I hope that you like it and that you can connect with him. You can search us everywhere by our Underworld office. We're starting to put some designs. We will also be doing that next videos. But if you want to get the sneak peeks, you can do so on Instagram, follow us there, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.